Well, I was going to say hello again, guys, but this is a first for us, isn't it? From here inside the National Stadium in Singapore. Although with the roof closed tonight, it felt more like the National Greenhouse. Yeah, you can probably see the perspiration on my forehead there. Yeah, the Singaporeans, they've been absolutely wonderful hosts. I think you can see from my vlogs how nice a country this is. But even the Singaporeans, is that the right phrase? I think it is. We'll go with it. Even they work to a timetable. They've got to go home and go to bed. So I've only got 15, 20 minutes to finish this video, they've told me. So let's get straight into it. And there's two elements to tackle tonight. There's the football, what happened beyond the running track there on the pitch. And then there's all of the news beyond that. And this wouldn't be Newcastle United without it being incredibly newsy. I've just been in the front row of Eddie Howe's press conference there. There's a huge big update to bring you on Sven Botman. He hobbled out injured. I'll tell you what Eddie said. I'll then tell you what I picked up in the mix zone downstairs just now. There's a big update to come on Alexander Isak. Another question I asked of Eddie Howe just now. And there's a big update to come on Johan Wissa, Nicholas Jackson, incomings, outcomings, everything else. There's all that to come. But first of all, the football, because it was a great game. Newcastle lost 3-2, but I found it thoroughly entertaining. I really did. I was disappointed there wasn't a penalty shootout there at the end, as there was for Arsenal AC Milan back here on Wednesday. Yeah, I love penalty shootouts, but anyway, it wasn't. Newcastle lost 3-2, but they did okay. They did better than I certainly thought. I'll tell you a little anecdote. I was in the lift at the team hotel yesterday, and Newcastle, the players are jet lagged. They arrived here early on Friday morning. They had to stay up a full day when the body was telling them to sleep. They then trained yesterday. Eddie Howe joked in the press conference that the training session wasn't particularly good. The players were tired, jet lagged. There's mitigation for that. I was then in a lift, an elevator with Bruno Guimaraes, and I said I was here on Wednesday, Bruno, and Arsenal were fantastic. And he said, "Oh, bloody hell, don't tell me that," which was very funny and I think spoke to the team's tiredness and fatigue. And Bruno is a brilliant character, super engaging with it. Now, in actual fact, they came out, and well, I say they came out, for the first 2 minutes they didn't have the ball, and it looked like everything we thought it might be a really long night. But then, with the first attack, and it was a good goal, it was a great goal, they scored on 6 minutes, perhaps not the final execution, but certainly the build-up to it. Kieran Trippier, really sharp. Sandro Tonali, that link-up, bursting from midfield into the, it was that goal, wasn't it? Yeah. Bursting into the penalty area. Trippier's lovely little ball around the outside. Tonali pulls it back, and Anthony Elanga runs on two, and it looks for all the world as you're going to sweep it right-footed into the far corner. He actually kicks it with his right off his left, and it goes into the near corner via the inside of the post. His first goal for Newcastle, probably aesthetically the worst goal he'll ever score for Newcastle, but he won't care because it gave Newcastle a good start. And goodness, they need to change the narrative. I was inside the team hotel yesterday, and everything you speak about on the record, off the record, on your screen, on video, talking to your desk back in London, everything is about Alexander Isak. We needed a football match here tonight. And they needed a goal, and they needed the performance, which followed for half an hour. It was good. Again, I'll say I was pleasantly surprised. There was nice little patterns there. Trippier and Tonali repeatedly linking up. Will Osula, we'll talk about more the striker position in just a moment, but he was dangerous. He tried to make things happen. Nothing really came off, but there was endeavour there. I thought the midfield pressed well, better than I ever thought they would. And as a team, yeah, there was a few nice patterns there, a few nice link-ups, but then as the half went on, and again, we've got a good view from here, even though you're separated by the running track, which, by the way, if they'd had a race on there, Anthony Elanga would have beat everybody on the pitch there with him by an absolute distance. Elanga's speed, he scored the goal, but then there was, I'm breaking off a little bit here on it, but there was one instant in the first half where he's played a pass forward and he's followed his pass, and he almost got to the intended target before the ball did. I've never seen a player move like that. It was absolutely rapid, and you can see Eddie Howe this season wanted to unleash what would have been the fastest front three in the Premier League on opponents with Elanga, Isak and Gordon. Sadly for Newcastle, and Howe, the Isak element of that trident, well, yeah, a triumphant. Sadly, that doesn't look as if it's going to be in place this season. We'll get to Isak. I said we weren't going to talk about Isak for 10 minutes. We'll talk about the football first. Yeah, so they've had the good start, the encouraging start. I thought during that opening period, if you're asking me for Newcastle's best player, I thought it was Trippier. Finished last season with that minor muscle injury, but he's come back there, and I thought he was incredibly sharp, good on the ball, showed good leadership, and Newcastle might just need that because it is turbulent at the moment. Off the pitch and on the pitch, that's 2 defeats out. We're 2 now, not that we should place too much stock on the results, but I think they're going to need characters and players like Kieran Trippier. So I thought he was a big positive from that first half, but then the last 10 minutes of the first half when they tired, Arsenal looked that little bit sharper. and Newcastle concede the equaliser. Yeah, Bruno Guimaraes and Anthony Elanga between them didn't cover the SummerSlam glory. Bruno's sleeping just a little bit. He wants the free kick when Mourinho comes in and wins it from him. It's not a free kick, it's a good challenge. Miguel Mourinho, formerly of this, well, of Newcastle parish, of course, does really well. Ball out with Trossard into Havertz. Havertz, by the way, who provided 2 assists, but centre forward who doesn't look like scoring a goal. They had Victor Gyökeres introduced there before the game, which that might have stung for Eddie Howe, watching on, seeing opponents unveil £64 million strikers. But Havertz provides the lovely assist for Mourinho, bottom corner. I've seen 1 or 2 criticisms for online for Nick Pope there. He did go down. It did look a little bit Peter Shilton 1990 with those penalties against West Germany just flopping down there. But I think he was slightly wrong-footed, and it was a super crisp early finish from Mourinho. So I'll give Nick Pope a pass for that, especially on what he did in the second half with a series of great saves. So that's 1-1. You're thinking, okay, Arsenal's in the ascendancy here, just get through at half-time. Newcastle and take stock again. But they're doing 2 minutes later, they switch off. It's poor, really. There's a gaggle of them over on that far side. Trippier included, Bruno and others. They think it's a harsh reward of a free kick. They're remonstrating with the referee. Arsenal take it quickly. Havertz lashes the ball across the face, and Alex Murphy just gets himself in the right muddle. He's left-footed, and the obvious thing to do is to hook it with your stronger foot coming over your shoulder. Not an easy skill to execute, but that's what he should have done. Instead, he goes with his right, and it's a super finish, top corner. And yeah, it's a bad moment for Murphy, because before that, I thought he'd done okay. He'd been given a little bit of a run around on 1 or 2 occasions from Saka, but every time he came back for more. And that was an unfortunate moment, given that he'd done okay before that. And I've heard decent enough reports from Murphy this pre-season. That's the reason why he started there at left back. So yeah, an unfortunate moment, but you move on from that. It can happen to the best of players, as we've seen over the years. So that's the expiry of the first half, but it's not been without other chances at the other end. Bruno Guimaraes had a good shot in Newcastle against an Arsenal team who are a week further down in terms of actually being here in Asia, and certainly looked good against AC Milan on Wednesday night. Yeah, I thought Newcastle did well enough in that first half, save for the last 10 minutes and 2 poor concessions there. They then come out in the second half with 9 changes. It's a 3-4-3 formation, which I don't think was necessarily trialing something. It was more just that the person on the pitch lent himself to that setup. And then they get an equaliser at this end from absolutely nowhere. And Anthony Elanga's come in and he scored. And Jacob Murphy, wonderful character, fantastic season last year. Well, yeah, he's risen to the challenge. He's got the ball off Lewis Miley. Lewis Miley was a positive, I thought, in the second half. Cuts in, left foot. It's a bit of a bobbler. Was that the pitch more than Murphy's execution? Perhaps it was, but it jumps over Reyes Hine in the bottom corner. It's a good goal. It's a great goal. And Jacob Murphy, don't forget about him. He had the most unexpectedly surprising, wonderful season last year around. If you rewind 12 months, no one, and this is with all respect to Murphy, would have expected he'd go on to have the campaign he did. So just because Elanga's come in, don't write him off. Don't forget about him. I thought Murphy was bright and buzzy in the second half. Miley was too, but then Arsenal bring on Max Dowman. Now, if you read, and this isn't AFTV, of course, but if you read my reflections from here on Wednesday night, I was raving about this guy. Boy, he's 15 years old. I've never seen a 15-year-old like that. I'll extend it, because you don't see many 15-year-olds. I don't think I've seen a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old like that, perhaps going back to Wayne Rooney for the closest. Remember the name. I wrote on Wednesday night that the World Cup next summer would come too soon for Dowman. I don't think it will. He'll be 16 by then. He could go as the wild card. He tormented Newcastle when he came on. They couldn't get to grips with him. There's no shame in that. Mikel Arteta's just called him special. He was absolutely wonderful. And he wins the penalty by getting away from 2 Newcastle players. Joe Linton, who'd already smashed him in the mouth. Just spoke to Joe Linton downstairs there. I said, you seemed well enough. Your knee must be good. You were up to your old tricks again. You were throwing yourself into everything. The good news is Joe Linton's knee is perfectly fine. But it's Joe Linton who trips him there. Dowman goes down. It's a penalty. And Martin Odegaard puts it away for 3-2. So yeah, I'd say there were 3 poor concessions, and that's what Eddie Howe said to us afterwards as well. Really disappointed with the goals, but a massive step up in terms of general play and patterns and combinations from Celtic a week ago there. So yeah, positives to be had. And I'd say my general reflections would be pleasantly surprised if indeed there is still an awful lot of work to do on and off the pitch. And this takes us to off the pitch. First of all, addressing that striker issue, a question I asked of Eddie Howe. I said, does it, and this is no reflection of Sean Neve or Will Osula, the 2 guys who played through the middle of the night, but an 18 and 21-year-old in that position, while Arsenal have got a £64 million striker sat in the stands there, does not bring home the need for reinforcement in that area? And Eddie used a really, really telling word. He said, we're not deluded. We know what we need to do. We knew what we needed to do coming into the summer, but it's been a difficult summer so far, and it continues to be so. And one or two of the Arsenal guys speaking to me downstairs, well, I'm a bit of a wander, come on, we'll have a bit of a walk. One or two of the Arsenal guys said to me, if we need to cool down, I'm hoping to generate a breeze. Is that flawed logic? Perhaps it is. But yeah, one or two of the Arsenal guys said to me that Eddie looked a little bit down and fed up in the press conference. And yeah, I wouldn't disagree. It has been a really difficult test in summer, and dealing with everything around Alexander Isak. And it's not when they finished last season the way they did. Carabao Cup winners, first domestic trophy, 70 years, back in the Champions League, big bumper budget, excitement to come. It's not how they envisage being here right now. And yeah, it's not great. You know, it's as much as that performance I thought was a little bit of levity and a nice distraction away from what's going on off the field. Those issues there, even if Newcastle had won tonight, those issues off the field remain. And yeah, Eddie, when it come to those questions about incomings, did seem a little bit down, to borrow the words of my colleagues from Arsenal. And yeah, he said we need incomings. I've spoken to a few players downstairs and they've all said the same. You know, players want to see new players arrive, and what they don't want to see either is this continued situation with Alexander Isak. I'm not going to make this another Isak video, but just to bring the big update on him, I said to Eddie, you know, is there any chance that he could join you here in Korea? He said, no chance, you know, here in Korea tomorrow. That's where we go. I don't know where I am. And I haven't started Tiger beer yet, goodness. Yeah, we're in Singapore. It's Korea tomorrow where I'll be going to. Yeah, he said, no, there's no chance. So I think, again, you know, I use that phrase, that speaks volumes. The fact that Alexander Isak, even though we're told that it's a minor thigh injury officially and the scan come back clear, there's no way he's joining up with the team. So I think now that it looks like there's going to be movement on Luis Diaz to Bayern Munich. Once that happens, that is when the money will drop, and I think the formal offer will come from Liverpool. And that is when, as we've explored in previous videos, that is when they're going to have the capital T, capital D, the decision to make. And we don't know what that is. We've debated the merits of sell or keep in the last couple of videos. Thanks so much for the interaction on all of them. It's a fascinating, newsy, brilliant story, and I say that selfishly as a journalist. You might not think that, but it's brilliant. The wrong word. That is me talking selfishly. I don't mean that for you guys. I just mean it's newsy. It's a story to follow. It's given us lots to talk about. It's fascinating for me to see which way it's going to play out. But anyway, it's not a good situation for Newcastle right now. And Eddie, again, being asked questions about that post-match, he does seem a little bit fed up. He wishes it was different. He didn't envisage it being like this. On the back of that, he's been asked questions about an injury as well, and that's Sven Botman. Now, Sven Botman played about 20 minutes the second half there before coming off. The good news is, there's two bits of good news. It's not his knee, all the issues he had with his knee last season. It's a groin problem, a groin complaint. I spoke to Dan Byrne downstairs, and Dan said that if it was a competitive game, if it wasn't a friendly, he probably would have stayed on. So that sounds like it's precautionary. As I was speaking to Dan Byrne, Sven Botman walked past in the background, no limp, no grimace, happily chatting away. So that seems like good news. And goodness, Newcastle really don't want an injury this pre-season, especially not to someone like Sven Botman, who last year was so punctuated. So that's the good news to come out of it, guys, if you can call it good news. But elsewhere, yeah, turbulence, unsure, unsettled. Those are the words I would use around Newcastle right now. Still no CEO, still no sporting director. Eddie Howe was asked about both of those afterwards, and it's a subject I'm going to get stuck into this week when I head to Korea. You know, where is everything at off the pitch? Where do Newcastle stand? Now, by then we might have seen a little bit of movement on Yoane Wissa. The latest information I've got is that there were calls yesterday involving Andy Howe, Yoane Wissa, representatives, and Phil Giles, the chief executive, the director of football down at Brentford. Now, Wissa wants to go. He's told me he's not going to play for the club again. He thinks he had a promise from last summer that he could go this time around. So there could be movement there. Other names who are on the shortlist: Ollie Watkins, Benjamin Sesko, Nicholas Jackson at Chelsea. Those are the names they're looking at. But they won't bring in a player for the sake of it. It's got to be the right player. Wissa's the one. I think we'll probably have an answer one way or the other in the next 24, 48 hours. Saying that, I've said that before, this is Newcastle's summer. Probably be saying the same when we leave Korea in a week's time. But that's where we roll now. Thanks so much for watching. Leave your comments below the line as you have done in the last couple of videos. Like, comment, subscribe, everything else. I am absolutely sweating now. That walk wasn't a good idea. I only got 10 yards. But let's have a little scan of this place. Beautiful stadium. Actually, I've walked in the wrong direction. There's the air. Right, that's where I'm going to head now. I'm going to find myself a beer somewhere, even though that will liberate me of the best part of £15. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you in South Korea. Okay, take care. Goodbye.